I thought I had, you know what it was? I think it was the basketball passes or something I put on the desk, and I had it. I just didn't remember that I had put it in my bag and left it there. So it's all good. I got my hands on it.
Cool.
All right, let's go silent until we get back here in 5 minutes.
Cool.
Take everything down, Frank.
It's go time. Man, that's nice.
It's time for the final word in sports all across the state. You're listening to Sports Talk with your hosts, Phil Kornblut, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. You've been waiting all day. So join the show now by calling 800-956-7266.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network here on the Big Friday in the Palmetto State. It's the Friday night before the Palmetto Bowl for 2018. Glad you are with us. Hope you had a wonderful, wonderful Thanksgiving. We are back live with you tonight. Phil Kornblut on location along the coasts, but I'll be heading to the upstate tomorrow. Will Pelagic is already in place in the upstate, in Clemson, ready to take in the sights and sounds the night before and the day of the Palmetto Bowl. And Professor Tom Hayes is in our studios in Columbia, along with Fran with a K, Halloran, who's running things tonight. That would be Frank Halloran. 800-956-7266. You have a final pick for us, a final comment, a final observation. We're going to try and work in your phone calls tonight. We're going to give you some final thoughts from the two head coaches, Will Muschamp and Dabo Sweeney. David Shelton will be here to talk about the high school playoff games tonight. We're really getting down to the big matchups now in the high school league playoffs, the quarterfinal rounds across the state championship games a couple of weekends away. We'll have our football filibuster with the governor and the lieutenant governor, Lee Sterling, with his Sterling picks. We'll have those for you tonight as well. And Ellis Johnson will be here with his 4th and goal observations of the big game, a game he knows well, intimately well from his years coaching in the state of South Carolina. So we got a lot for you here tonight on Sports Talk. In fact, we'll talk about our picks and the picks of our panel of Sports Talk experts tonight as I welcome in Will from up in Clemson. You've already gotten yourself ahead of the traffic and in place for tomorrow.
Well, we always talk about how unpredictable the travel is for Clemson. And, with my parents taking in their first game at Clemson, I did not want them to even chance missing this. So we decided to do the prudent thing, get a hotel the night before. We did this before the game time was announced. So really probably could have made the trip up the day of. I think we all were kind of hoping for a noon game, but why not? Under the lights, Death Valley, get a little flavor of the town tonight and show them around the campus. And really, I know we've kind of talked almost jokingly over the course of this week about, whether or not South Carolina has a chance to win or has a chance to compete in this game. But the one thing that I will say before we get into the prognostication is that I do love the fact that we do get this rivalry in its same spot every year at the end of the schedule, get everything kind of out of the way, all the other conference games out of the way. This is kind of the one, the big McCoy, if you will, the one that everyone really likes to think about and talk about, and we'll obviously be thinking about it for the next 364 days after tomorrow because of how the result will go.
Absolutely. And, Pro, you and I are both boys of the state of South Carolina, and Will's a newcomer, so it will grow on him. But you and I, growing up in the state of South Carolina in small towns, I think that I can speak for you. You can speak for me. There's nothing bigger in the States than the Saturday of this football game, regardless of which side you happen to be pulling for as a youngster and growing up. This game outshines everything. And rivalry weekend, to me, is still the big day in college football. I know now with the playoff situation, everything points towards the semifinals and the national championship. But, football, in my mind, even though we crown a national champion in some form or fashion, it's always been more of a regional thing. It was about winning that state championship. It was about winning that conference championship. That's where the real long-term bragging rights live. But growing up in small town South Carolina, as did you, I know the rivalry split the towns, and the old folks of the town back in my day used to have fun with one another, putting up signs depending on which side would win. And it was just a lot of fun over the years being involved as just an observer of this thing growing up in the state.
Well, it was a split, but it was in my neck of the woods. That split was about 75-25% Clemson, because you got to remember that Bamberg was a big farming county and still is, and the Clemson Extension Service was there, and a lot of people were real big Clemson fans. But there were some South Carolina fans there. But you're right. If you go to some places, I guess in small towns like Denmark tonight, there's some people have signs up that's lit just like they have their Christmas lights up. They'll have lights up saying which team they support for that weekend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of neat things in our state over the years related to the game, and hopefully a lot of the traditions that have been going on for decades are still going on in various parts of the state. It's the biggest 3 hours of the year in our state. Those young men who will be on the field, 22 at a time, representing their schools, representing, in a lot of cases, towns and cities from South Carolina. You can become a legend. You can become a hero, or you can become a GOAT, depending on how things work out. But you will be remembered in many, many ways by how you do in this game. You might go on to do bigger and better things in college and in the pros afterwards, but you'll be remembered in some form or fashion by your fans by how you do in those 3.5 hours on the 100 yards of grass at Death Valley or at Williams-Brice Stadium. So really, really excited about it tomorrow. I am taking the points with South Carolina as I look at our picks, guys. I'm sticking with my belief that South Carolina's offense is in its best shape in 3 years to play Clemson, to give the Gamecocks a chance to put some points on the board and make this a more competitive game. So I'll take the Gamecocks and the points. Will?
You know, I feel like I almost feel like I have my heels dug in here because of the way I've talked this week. But and I know that also we don't like to use this phrase, you know, past performance does not equal future results. So I'm not going to necessarily say that is the case, and that is the reason why I'm going the way I'm going. I just haven't seen anything to this point, whether it's head-to-head, whether it's in the 11 games of the body of work for both these teams. I don't see anything that shows me that this shouldn't be a Clemson blowout. And I'll even give you a number. I think Clemson will put up more than 50 points. I think they'll allow less than 20. I'm going Clemson 52, South Carolina 13.
Wow, another blowout. Okay. I've got it in terms of a number. I've got it 35-20 Clemson, but that's within the
a lot of points. That's a lot of points.
And Pro, you say what?
Yeah, I'm going that Clemson win this football game, but it'll stay in the parameters. Very close here. My score is 41-20, Clemson. The reason I say that is I think Clemson is going to strike early. They're going to build a lead. I think for South Carolina, the key point of keeping this game close is they're not going to give Clemson any turnovers. Those blowouts we saw, South Carolina was just turning the ball over way in their territory. And, of course, the early pick six last year. I think they're going to play a clean game, but a clean game against a team the caliber of Clemson won't be enough, but they'll stay inside that point spread.
All right. Well, it looks like the majority of the panel will take South Carolina and the points.
Interesting.
Well, there's a reason you're in last place, Will, in the competition.
I find it interesting. I think you all are looking at this more on hope. And again, the best thing for this is for this rivalry to get back to being a competitive rivalry, one where both teams have an equal opportunity to win, or at least a respectable opportunity to win. I think you guys are all doing this on hope. Clemson is an immovable object right now. Anybody is hard pressed to try and cover against them, even South Carolina.
By the way, Pro leads 39-21. Fran Halloran second, 36-24. 35-25 would be Matt the Newsman and the bad boy Alan Smothers, 35-25. 33-27, the Big Kahuna. 32 and 28 is Brian Leonard. Kev Cohen is 31 and 29. Oh, I'm 35 and 25. I left myself out. So I'm among the front runners. Let's see. Looks like most of us are taking Auburn and the points. Everybody is taking Georgia to cover. Looks like most everybody is taking Florida, laying the 6.5. And looks like a split panel on Ohio State, Michigan, with Ohio State getting 4.5 at home. We'll be back. David Shelton's coming up and more here on Sports Talk.
Does he want me to come back and do the high school read and throw to him? Because I will do that. Ah. Oh. Welcome back, Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. As we continue here, Will Pelagic here in Clemson, Phil Kornblut on assignment, Professor Tom Hayes in our Columbia studios. We're going to get to our high school report here with David Shelton in just a moment, just updating a couple of scores. A couple of games going on in the ACC, at least one game going on in the ACC, and that's Virginia Tech leading Virginia in the Battle of the Commonwealth there, 24-14. It's funny how Corn has become a bit of a stan account for Dax Holyfield. Apparently, he's all over the field and doing quite well. UCF, a 17-3 lead on USF in the Battle of the State of Florida, a group of 5 schools there, and a very unfortunate incident with UCF quarterback Mackenzie Milton, who left the game with a serious knee injury, and he had to be carted off the field. A gruesome injury, very, very sad. In the SEC, it was Missouri blowing out Arkansas 38-0. Chad Morris's first year at Arkansas ends at 2-10. Missouri 8-4 on the season, going into a potential bowl game. And a sad thing for Coastal Carolina, they fall to South Alabama 31-28. So a chance and bid for Joe Moglia's squad to get to a bowl game will fall short at 5-7. 2-6 in the Sun Belt is where they finish the regular season. And right now, Corn, I know you're very, very much wanting to know where the Tiger and Phil matchup is. They are all square with 3 holes to play. They're through 14 and still tied in the battle for the $10 million.
Yeah, and tell everybody about the broadcast deal. And
so
thought you had to pay for it to watch it. Now you don't have to.
Basically, the way it was supposed to be, it was like a $29.99 deal on Bleacher Report Live or AT&T, but I guess there was some sort of technical snafu where I guess they were trying to get it through, and apparently the paywall wasn't working. So they basically, about halfway through, opened it up and said, you know what? They're just opening it up to anybody who ever wants to watch it. So if you haven't seen any of it, it's on the Bleacher Report Live website. Just put that in Google, and you can find it there and catch the last 3-4 holes there as Tiger and Phil now are walking up the 15th fairway.
Exciting stuff. One more football score. Ohio beat Akron 49-28. Ordinarily, we wouldn't care, but USC plays Akron in Columbia next week. The Zips will come in with a 4-7 record. Now we got some high school, correct?
We do have some high school, and it's brought to you by the folks at Farm Bureau Insurance, which brings in David Shelton to the high school sports report. Farm Bureau Insurance has fave rates to get all of your favorite things like competitive rates, local agents, and great claim service for all of your auto, home, and life insurance needs. Get a no-obligation quote today at favrates.com.
And we do welcome in David Shelton of the high school sports report, the Charleston Post and Courier. David, this is when you want to be playing high school football over the Thanksgiving weekend. And, it seems like in the past we're playing championships on this particular weekend for the most part. We're still a couple of weekends away from championships, but we got some great matchups tonight. Who do you like? I guess every game in the 5A ranks is going to be a pretty good matchup tonight now.
Yeah, 5A is loaded tonight with some really good matchups. I'm here at Berkeley tonight, watching Somerville and Berkeley, their second game played, but you got Hannah playing Dorman, and then you got Gaffney and Burns playing, and then you got West Florence, who's the Cinderella of the group, hosting Dutch Fork on the road for the first time in several years. And I don't think it's going to matter much, but there are some really good matchups around the state in all classifications, but particularly 5A. I guess that's the one that most people pay attention to. But then you look down in 4A and you got Wren and Daniel. The over/under on that bad boy is about 100. You got May River, who's undefeated in their third year, going to Dillon, and we all know what Dillon is. Bamberg, Earhart, and Carver State in 2A is going to be a fantastic matchup. So, yeah, there are going to be some really good games on this Friday night, setting up next week's upper and lower state finals.
Yeah, and it's Dutch Fork is such a dominant team all year long. Like you said, having to play on the road tonight, should they win and advance, and they'll have to go on the road again next week if I'm reading the bracket correctly for the lower state championship. They'll have to be the visitor again.
Yeah, they will play the winner. If they win, they'll play the winner of this game I'm at, Somerville Berkeley, at either of their home sites. So, yeah, if Dutch Fork's going to get to Columbia, they're going to have to do it a little bit the hard way, which, they've been the dominant team, ranked number 1 since the day one, and have been dominant throughout. So, let's see how they play on the road. I mean, I particularly, I think they're going to win the game, but I think West Florence has got a puncher's chance. I think they can, if they can run the football and keep Dutch Fork's offense off the field, I think, get first downs and score touchdowns. You can't keep field goals against Dutch Fork. I think they've got an opportunity to at least be in this game in the second half.
How about this North Myrtle Beach game in the coastal area? Two rivals and meeting in a most important game tonight.
Absolutely. It's the winner goes to the lower state finals, and who better to play than your arch rival? What are they, about 13 miles apart, I think, something to that effect. But who better to play than your arch rival in the biggest game? There'll be a big crowd at Doug Shaw Stadium tonight, and hopefully. The big question right now is the weather. There's some rain moving in. I don't know what it's doing in the upstate or in the Midlands, but I know they're calling for some rain to start here around game time. So hopefully the worst weather stays away. It is cold, or it is cool, I would say. It's in the 40s, but if we can keep a dry field around all the state, I think that just makes for better football.
Is the feel-good story of the playoffs Wade Hampton of Hampton with Jerry Brown? And, we remember what happened at Spring Valley and how that ended. And now he's at Wade Hampton, and he's got them a couple of wins away from being in the state championship.
Yeah, that is one of them, because I think a lot of people kind of wrote Coach Brown off, and that's not the thing to do. The guy's won everywhere he's ever been. And I'm looking at the field right now where he won 3 state titles at Berkeley and is like a legend here. I mean, beloved. And his team is going to be 25 miles away at Hanahan tonight. But when you talk about feel-good stories, I like his story. I like May Rivers' story, third-year program, undefeated, getting an opportunity to go to the powerhouse Dillon, and try to reach the lower state final. I think West Florence has been a really feel-good story. I mean, and Jody Jenrette, who'd never won a playoff game at Ainer and has won 2 at West Florence in his first year, and gets to take on the mighty Dutch Fork Silver Foxes tonight. So there's a lot of really cool stories still alive in the playoffs, and some crazy things happen. There'll be some real good ones next week too.
Yeah. I think another one is Southside Christian. I mean, they've got a really talented quarterback and some other really good pieces, and they'll play Saluda at home tonight with a chance to get to the upper state finals.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And again, you look at like Chester, where Victor Floyd was really good and left and went to Georgia and has come back and now has an undefeated team. You look at what Abbeville has been able to do and continue their dominance in the upstate 2A. Chapman, everybody thought when Colton Bailey left Chapman that they were just going to fall off the face of the earth, and here they are still playing. And so, I mean, yeah, there's some, like I said, the football season really began last week, and it really, and what you said in the opening, when you're playing on Thanksgiving weekend, you're a pretty darn good football team, and that's what we're going to see tonight. We're going to see some great games around the state.
All right, one more. Dixie. I mean, have we ever talked this deep into the season about Dixie? They're playing at home tonight against McBee. In fact, they're already underway.
Yeah, I think they started early because of some weather, and I think Dixie has a great opportunity to win tonight and be in the upper state finals against either Lamar or Wagner Sally, which are 2 really good teams. Now, I don't know if Dixie can get to the state finals, but they would be favored against McBee. McBee kind of pulled off an upset. They played very well here at the end of the season. So, I mean, I think they won 2 or 3 games during the regular season. Here they are, one step from being in the upper state final.
Okay, David, how's your weather looking? Is it chilly where you are?
Yeah, it's quite breezy and probably 50 or a little under. It's I'll be in the press box, but these people, and I'll tell you what, we're still a good ways away. We're over an hour away, and this place is starting to fill up over here.
Hey, real quick, give us your Gamecock Clemson pick.
Well, I'll take the Tigers. I think they're the better team, and I don't say that for any other reason. I just think they're the better team. And cover, I don't know, but I'll say they'll cover.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Talk to you tonight. David Shelton, he'll be with us on the high school scoreboards at 10, 10:30, and 11. We'll bring you all the finals from the playoffs tonight, and we'll be back with the football filibuster. Oh, you know, Thanksgiving is such a great American holiday and a great tradition. It is obviously a great time to have with us two great Americans here on Sports Talk for our football filibuster edition for Rivalry Weekend and the Palmetto Bowl. We welcome in former Governor Jim Hodges and former Lieutenant Governor Andre Bauer. Just don't tell Kyrie Irving that Thanksgiving is a great American holiday. You might get your head bitten off.
I saw that. How about that? That was certainly not an endorsement dream, huh?
No, it was not. And it came off a bad home loss to the lowly Knicks, of all people.
Hey, now.
In a bad mood.
Don't sleep on my Knicks now. Come on now.
Hey, listen, yeah, they won. I got to give them their due. So, guys, great to have you with us. Andre, how was your Thanksgiving, my friend?
Fabulous, fabulous.
Did you fry your turkey or bake your turkey or eat something else?
Eat something else.
Oh, what did you dine on?
We ate a late breakfast, kind of brunch. I cooked especially there by Love's pancakes, and then we went out for lunch, and I had a filet and some Brussels sprouts.
Now, I know Governor Hodges was on the farm in Lancaster, and he was doing some heavy deep frying.
I did go up to L.A. I went to Lancaster to the Wagon Wheel, and Andre knows about the Wagon Wheel, and had some fried squash and some turkey. It was really good.
Oh,
That's good
that
stuff.
sounds good.
Fried squash at the Wagon Wheel.
Now, I've always heard the Wagon Wheel was a place where a lot of heavy political activity took place over the years. Is that true?
Well, a lot of heavy eating goes on there. I can if I'm in pre-bed, Wagon Wheel is a great restaurant. If you're ever in Chester or Lancaster County, it's worth the trip. I think you would agree, wouldn't you, Andre?
Absolutely.
Yeah. We'll have to send Pelagic up there. Put that on your list, Will.
Wagon Wheel, I'm on it.
Yeah.
You got it.
All right, guys. Well, listen, you matched each other pick for pick. You took all the drama out of it last week, so you both went 3-2. So nothing's changed. Governor, you are 37-23. Andre, you are 34-26. I may have to invoke an executive action tonight that if you do the same thing, then I will force somebody to make a different pick.
Fair enough.
You got it.
Don't make me play heavy-handed here. All right, let's go to the games. We begin with Michigan at Ohio State. Buckeyes at home getting 4.5 points. Andre, you shall lead us off tonight. What do you think?
I'm going to take Ohio State.
And your thinking is?
I don't know enough about either one of them, but Ohio State's at home. They've had a good run, and I'm going to pick the home team.
Well, Urban Meyer, make the game. That's my question.
Yeah, been some question about his health. Governor, what do you think?
You know, I'm going to take Ohio State too. That's what I had down. Just 4.5 points is a little too much for a rivalry game. We can come back to that later if we're all doing the same on it. I might rethink it. But Ohio State's who I think is going to. I think Michigan will win, but it'll be by field goal.
Okay. And we'll do some amendments at the end if we need to. All right, Governor, let's go to Florida at Florida State. Used to be a marquee matchup. Maybe one day in the near future it will be once again, but right now it is not, though Florida trying to finish off a 9-win regular season under first-year coach Dan Mullen. They will love him for that. And it is the Seminoles at home getting 6.5, Governor.
Florida State's looking like Florida International these days. It's just not very good. I'm going to take the Gators. Florida State's just so bad, and Florida is playing better here at the end of the season. I know it's 6.5 in a rivalry game, but I'll take the Gators.
That's cold.
All right, sir. Andre, what do you think?
I agree with him. I take the Gators as well.
Gators as well. Okay, we're 2 for 2 here. Once again, don't like the way this is moving. Let's go to Georgia Tech at Georgia. Now, Georgia Tech's winning, and they're running. They're not throwing at all. And Georgia's Georgia. They're great, and they got a great defense, and they're laying 17 at home. Andre?
Georgia.
Georgia laying the points. Governor?
Yeah, I've got the Bulldogs too in this one. I just think they're too good for Tech, and they're going to handle that option attack. So I'll take Georgia.
Yeah, I mean, Georgia Tech has really gotten good over the last few weeks. Not playing the greatest competition, but they're doing what Paul Johnson wants, and that is just run it, run it, run it. But I think they're going to have to throw it and be forced to play from behind here, which won't be a good formula. All right, to the Iron Bowl, Auburn at Alabama, 24 the spread. Auburn's not a horrible team. They've had some bad outings here, and Stidham has not been the great quarterback this year they thought he would be. And they're getting 24. And Governor, what do you think?
I'm going to take Auburn. I mean, I think Alabama is going to win it, but it is a rivalry game, and 24 points is a lot. So I'm going to take Auburn, keeping it closer than 3.5 touchdowns.
And Andre, what do you say on this one? Auburn, Alabama laying 24.
I'm going to take Bama minus the 24.
Oh, there we go. Finally, a difference of opinion. Roll Tide, huh?
Well, they've just been so strong. Although the Citadel gave them a good run that first half, running it down their throats, and Bama had to adjust, and they did. But even though it's a rivalry game, Bama is just so unbelievable. I think rivalry game, they're going to show who the king of the hill is, and they are just so incredible.
You just wonder about the knee of Tango Viola, and, even Hurts has been hurting some as well. You just have to, if you're Alabama, got to make sure those guys stay on their feet, which takes us to the Palmetto Bowl of 2018 as South Carolina and Clemson go at it one more time. Clemson is going for its 5th in a row, its 70th win overall in the series, so they get a chance to take it to that next number in the record book against the Gamecocks, and they are a 26-point favorite. Oh, my gosh. Too much, too little. What do you say, Andre?
Go Cox. I'm picking the Gamecocks. Clemson's been unbelievable this year. They've covered the spread the vast majority of the time. I think only 2 or 3 times they can cover the spread. That's a lot of points in a rivalry game where Carolina's still got a great team this year. I'm going to take Gamecocks for 26.
Andre, you kind of sound like deep down you think they're actually going to win the game.
That's not what I said.
Governor, what do you say?
Yeah, I'm with Andre. I just think it's far too many points. We'll keep it closer than 26. So I am going to take the Gamecocks in this one. But I will revisit one of the other games for you to make it a little more competitive. I'll revisit.
Okay, what would you like?
I've looked at this and I keep thinking, I believe we're due for an Urban Meyer slide, which happens to him at every school he goes to. So I'm going to take Michigan in that Michigan State game.
Smart.
I'm glad you did it because I was going to do it just to make it interesting. I like to have a game to watch to see if I'm going to be able to catch up with the governor. So I'm glad he did it.
You're only 3 games behind. You're only 3 games behind Andres. If you run the table, you'll be a game behind going into championship week. So that's not bad. You're within striking distance. As they say in politics, you're within the margin of error. No comeback on that from anybody.
I said, no one liked that one. That was a swing and a miss, Corn.
I thought that was good, a margin of error. I'm showing my political acumen here.
That's only because of if you have a poll.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
At this point,
any
we
final?
do not need a recount.
That's right. We're accurate. All our votes are counted here at the moment they happen, and they are appropriately accounted for. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the football game. Either of you going up to Death Valley?
I don't think question anymore.
I will not be making the trip.
No, huh? They don't treat y'all like royalty up there anymore?
Yeah, I just don't get those offers I used to get.
How about you, Governor?
A night game, getting home at 3 a.m, that doesn't sound like fun to me. I think I'll watch it from my couch.
All right, you guys enjoy. We'll talk to you next week.
See you now. Bye-bye.
By the way, Corn, Virginia has taken the lead on Virginia Tech, if you can believe it.
I can't believe that. They were left for dead. What was it, 17-0?
Dax Holyfield missed the tackle.
Well, that would be his first.
Look at Pro.
That would
Pro
be
coming salty.
All right, thanks to the governor and the lieutenant governor for their picks tonight. They both like the Gamecocks. I'm telling you, there's a growing tide of people out there who feel South Carolina's at least going to cover in terms of the margin.
Growing tide.
From their standpoint.
Growing tide. All right, so Frank, you're gonna have to play this one. Play out of the break, the Lee Sterling, and then bring us all back up after it's over. Yes. Yes, it does. No need to play anything else. I would test it out with the computer one potted down just to make sure it plays cleanly. So it doesn't do that thing that Audition does. Yes. Cool. I just play that out at 47:52. Get your money where your mouth is. And hang out. Vandy is losing at home to Kent State. Oh, this is basketball. Tiger can't putt it.
Time to put your money where your mouth is. Put up your feelings, let's fight it out. He's a hustler. If you don't got gas, you won't be getting no skills. And if you don't got money, you want some money. If you don't got cash, you won't be getting no. He's a gambler. Let the house running young and then we got paid.
Show them the next item up for bid.
It is time now to get our professional help here on Sports Talk as we welcome in from ParamountSports.com, the one, the only Lee Sterling. Good evening, Lee. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I'm going on fumes. your show
I
number
imagine you've been knocking off the shows.
3 more to go.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, hope you had a great Thanksgiving. And yeah, well, we want you to work. We want you to earn your money and earn your keep around here.
I've got left.
Well, let's get right at it because we've got a great list of games. It's rivalry weekend. Is it, before we get into the actual picks, when it comes to these rivalry games, a little more tricky than regular season games earlier in the year?
It is. You never know what's going to happen and what's at stake with these coaches. You know, they sometimes will get a little tight. Some coaches also, they've saved up a couple trick plays for this game. So it's fun for the fans. I think it's fun for the kids and nerve-wracking for the coaches.
Yeah, and emotions run high every week, but these rivalry games especially high. Does that affect
I wonder
the
why
handicappers' thinking?
You know what? I'd love to see them move these games maybe up a week because a lot of these kids are on vacation for the Thanksgiving holiday.
Yeah, you're right. The students miss these games in many cases because they've gone
let's
home.
Move it a week up, and let's how we always front load it with some easy games early in the season. Maybe put one of those games or a game where if you're, let's say, Clemson, you're playing someone like Wake Forest this week.
Yeah. Well, I think it's called tradition, what's left in college football, and most people don't want to mess with it. All right, let's get to it. Let's see what you got for us. First of all, how was your week last week?
Good week last week. 5-1 in the college football on Saturday, 2-2 in the NFL. Actually, 2-1. We tied the Rams game against Kansas City, one of the greatest games you ever watch in the NFL. So Both have been fun. Usually I'm a little bored with the NFL. I watch it. I take notes. I gotta give it to my clients. But this year has been probably one of the most interesting, most fun years ever in the NFL. So it's got some really good super teams and some great offenses.
All right. Tell people how they can get your stuff over the weekend.
Well, if they want to hop on board, we have what's called our world-famous Turkey Shootout. 15 games from tomorrow all the way through Monday. So you don't have to call back and each day or wait to get these games. They're all ready for you on an instant download. So if you're heading out of town or you got people coming over, as soon as you purchase the games, pops the window open with 15 plays. And we've had some incredible 13-2, 12-3 runs on these Turkey Shootouts. And normally for the 15 games combined, Thursday through Monday, to 147. Last year, I dropped it all the way down to 97. We had an incredible response. I want to set records. I'm setting it at $77. That's right, $5 a selection, $77 for 15 plays. It's all available. ParamountSports.com, or you can call here at the office and order through our office, 800-400-9741.
All right, let's get to the games. Let's begin with Georgia laying 17 against Georgia Tech.
Well, normally you take the underdog when you get an option team, and they're going to try to obviously shorten the game. They don't want to have 14, 15 possessions for each team. But Georgia Tech defense, 24 takeaways this year. They're going to need 2+ turnovers to have a chance in this game, and I just don't see it. Georgia just doesn't turn the ball over like that. In fact, they've been the beneficiary, and they usually pounce on turnovers and turn those into quick scores. We saw that against South Carolina earlier in the season. So I just think that Georgia Tech hasn't beaten anyone decent here. They've won 4 straight, but Georgia Tech also a lot of trouble against this Bulldog defense, scoring only 14 points a game the last 3 games. The Bulldogs 19-6-1 against the spread run the last 26 games here. I think they're going to out-physical Georgia Tech at their own game. Give me Georgia. They pull away 37-14.
All right. That takes us to Alabama-Auburn, the Crimson Tide, favored by 24.
Yeah, and the game last week, this was a game against Citadel that Alabama played. I mean, it was like playing in shorts and a T-shirt for these guys. I don't think they watched a lick of film on Citadel. So I think they're going to revert back to their ways here. Fast starts. Wouldn't shock me if Nick Saban calls a play-action pass, first or second plays, tries to go up top and tries to put the nail in the coffin early. So they're going to attack, and keep attacking here. They're looking for payback for last year's 26-14 loss on the Plains here. Jarrett Stidham, I don't know if I've ever seen a quarterback just fall further in 1 year. This is a guy that was talked about maybe a top 15, 20 pick. Now, if he comes out, I don't even know if he'd be picked in the first 3 or 4 rounds. So looks like he almost has to come back here. He'll face a Tide defense, 37 sacks on the year. I think Alabama's going to lay it on them. Sometimes you got to lay it if you want to play it. Blowout city, Alabama, 48-10. Roll Tide.
They'll be calling for somebody's head after that one on the Plains. Yeah. And here in the Palmetto State, the Palmetto Bowl, Clemson going for 5 in a row against the Gamecocks, favored by a hefty 25.
Yeah, and it looks like Clemson is headed right down the tracks for a national title meeting versus Alabama. South Carolina, in that Florida game, I saw a lot of things that I liked, for the first 3.5 quarters here. They just needed to finish, which they didn't. But Jake Bentley, don't want to back him when he's not playing well, but I think he's playing at a high level. He has 19 TD passes on the season, the last 3 games. They're also plus in the turnover ratio. That's important. You can't turn the ball over. You can't fall behind by double digits against Clemson. I think they're going to play well here. And the Gamecocks have only lost by more than 28 points 2 times since 2013. Clemson wins 38-17, but the Gamecocks cover.
I'm riding that bicycle right there with you.
Come on, Lee.
Go to your.
If I hit the exact score, just let me know, and I'll pick out the lottery tickets for you too.
Hey,
I like that. All right, let's go to your game of the week. It's in the NFL. It's the all of a sudden struggling Panthers against the Seahawks.
Yeah, we're going to see if they can get healthy here at home against a pretty darn good Seattle team that's playing everyone close. Especially the Rams twice. They almost beat them, and then they came back and beat Green Bay last week. So this should be a very competitive game. First 10 callers get Carolina and Seattle on me. I got some real good intel on this game. So you want to get Carolina and Seattle for free, just call 800-400-9741. And as I said before, world's famous turkey shootout, 15 games, just $77. It's all available, ParamountSports.com.
Hey, Lee, we thank you as always. Enjoy the weekend, and we will talk to you next week.
Okay, you guys have a happy and healthy Thanksgiving.
All right, Lee Sterling. Obviously, we did that yesterday. Was it yesterday? I guess it was Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Yeah, and we appreciate him being with us once again and staying with us. So he likes Clemson to win, but he likes the Gamecocks to cover. Virginia is still up on Virginia Tech now, 28-24. What a turnaround in this game. It was, 17-0 Hokies, and then the Cavaliers got hot trying to get to 8 wins.
Hey, they are all square heading to the 18th hole with Tiger and Phil. Tiger chipped in from off the fringe to put the pressure on Phil to make a putt to have the hole. He missed the putt. They're all square going to 18. How about that?
Wow.
It's fixed.
You think it's fixed? Or it's staged?
No, Tiger needed to make a real tough chip to put that one on the pressure on Phil. And Phil might have missed the putt on purpose, maybe to just give it a little drama, but who knows? Who knows?
All right, Iowa beat Nebraska 31-28. It was Memphis over Houston, 52-31. And in the third, going to the fourth, UCF, you mentioned the horrific injury to the quarterback, 24-10 UCF over South Florida. Oklahoma, West Virginia coming up tonight with the winner there advancing to the Big 12 championship game. We got another hour of sports talk. We'll talk more about the Gamecocks and the Tigers coming up.
Bud Foster. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Got it. Is he going to take it back? I'm guessing. Is he going to take it out of the break? Is he going to start after out of the break? Is my question. Okay. All right. It's fine. I don't even know. Stung it. Oh my. I love it though. I want it in my house. Hmm. Throw it.
Round 2 of Sports Talk up next with your hosts Phil Kornblut, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. Don't leave us hanging. Join the show, 800-956-7266.
We are back at Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network on a Friday, heading into the Palmetto Bowl 2018, USC Clemson, Clemson USC. More on that coming up in just a moment. Ellis Johnson will be joining us. We'll talk with him about what's going to happen, what should happen, what might happen tomorrow night in Death Valley with his 4th and Goal segment. You know, this is this year's game, the 10th anniversary of the beginning of the 2 streaks. It was 2009 under Steve Spurrier. The Gamecocks won, and they won 5 in a row. And now Clemson has won 4 in a row, seeking to go 5 in a row, 1 for the thumb for them against the Gamecocks. Thought it'd be kind of neat just to go back to 2009, hear what Spurrier and Sweeney had to say after that particular game. Here is Steve Spurrier as he talked with the media back in 2009. It was the win that sort of got the Gamecocks rolling toward those great years and, of course, that 5-game winning streak. What did Spurrier say then? Here's what he had to say.
I told our guys, you know, we haven't beaten these guys a lot, and I think sometimes we celebrate too much when we beat them, to tell you the truth. So we're going to try to enjoy the win and understand it. I think when Clemson beats us, they don't celebrate wildly, but I think we've overdid it 3 years ago, and I was probably guilty also. So we're going to try to enjoy the victory tonight, and you know, we'll celebrate and all that. But after it's over, let's move on to the next game, and you know, hopefully don't.
I'll give you the lead in for it.
Although we did win the state championship, for some reason Mo Brown and one of the other guys hit me with a Gatorade bucket, although I think it was just water. And I said, wait a minute. I said, you're only supposed to do that if we ever win a championship around here. And then I started thinking, well, we're the state champs. You know, that's what we call it, state champs. And we are, because we beat South Carolina State also, which is an excellent team. They're definitely in the top 3 teams in the state.
Yep, state champs beat South Carolina State too. Going to get that state championship. On the other side of that night, a young Dabo Sweeney just getting things going at Clemson at that time. Here is what he had to say after the loss.
It's not rocket science. I mean, this isn't very complicated. You know, nothing earth-shattering. You know, y'all watch the game. I mean, this is 2 good football teams. I mean, South Carolina's a good football team. Golly, it's not like you're playing a team that doesn't have 85 scholarships and talented. It's a rival game. And when you go on the road in a rival game and you turn it over and you don't get turnovers, it's just hard to overcome it.
Ellis Johnson joins us now. He was the assistant head coach, defensive coordinator, linebackers coach at South Carolina that night and for a few years after, as the Gamecocks enjoyed some unprecedented success, probably their greatest run of football outside of the 1984 season, and he was a part of that. So 2009, what do you remember about the Gamecocks getting the job done and starting that winning streak?
Well, I'll tell you the biggest thing, Phil, we were underdogs. To go back, I don't know if anybody can check it out, what the Gurus had, but we were underdogs on the point spread, and started off, you know, they had the penalty on the kickoff and gave them a retry, and then still took it for a touchdown. But from then on, I thought we played absolutely dominant. And I think there were like 7 or 8 punts in the game, 2 or 3 turnovers or whatever. We gave up a couple of late touchdowns, but we just really played well that day. Clemson was a really good football team coming in. They had more wins than we did, I think. And I know they were probably favorites in the game. But it's been a long time. A lot of gray hair and a lot of memory loss. That's about all I can remember.
Yeah, things have certainly changed because, I mean, Dabo is the constant, and there's been turnover at South Carolina, and Will Muschamp's trying to get the Gamecocks back. So 26-point underdogs. How do you see this thing playing out tomorrow night?
Well, first of all, I hate it when it's that much of a lopsided prediction, and it was again. I think it was 2 years ago when I was helping them as an analyst. We went up. It was about that spread also, but
If Carolina cannot somehow come up with turnovers, or Clemson doesn't, trip over themselves, Carolina's depth chart right now is in such shambles with injuries, and they were already a little bit, underdog and outmanned. So, if Clemson takes care of business, I just really don't see how Carolina finds a way to win. But that's why they play them on Saturday, and I know they'll be ready to play. I know they're well coached. I've been around a lot of both these coaches on both sides of that rivalry, and the guys will have them ready to play. And it's just going to be a matter of whether they execute, take care of the football, and make enough plays to keep themselves in the game.
Well, we've talked about it a lot this year, Ellis. Just, South Carolina having to deal with a bunch of issues with depth and injuries. How much do you think this lopsided spread has to do with the fact that just South Carolina is injured in places they can't afford to be injured in when they play a team like Clemson with the strengths that they have?
Well, I think obviously it has a lot to do with it. I don't know who all does the spreads, but they research all this stuff, and we make jokes about it, but it really is. I mean, it's a business. People are making millions of dollars off of it, so they're not just throwing stuff out there, off the cuff or out of their heart. They're researching and trying to find out information and everything else. But the first thing you start with is how well Clemson's played, and how, especially lately, and how talented they are. He's done a heck of a job recruiting, and it's been good recruiting class after good recruiting class. He hadn't had one or two until then. In between, it's good recruiting classes every year. You get deep, you get talented. You've got the situation at quarterback that they had. That was obviously real controversial and got a lot of media attention. But the bottom line is a guy who had won about 20, 30 games gets knocked out by a freshman quarterback. So it just shows you how well they've been recruiting each year. And it's just, unless a team doesn't play well, the team that wins in the living room every year is going to beat the team out on the field.
Well, Coach, it's hard to call the guy a freshman now since he has so many games under his belt, but this is his first stage in this rivalry. As a defensive coordinator, do you think in terms of your coverages, or because he's a youngster, you want him to make a quick decision rather than have a chance to scan the field and make a decision based on the coverages he sees? What I'm trying to ask you is, what type of gambling do you think Muschamp will do as far as blitzing is concerned?
Yeah, it's a great question, but I think it would be a tough game for the young quarterback if it wasn't in Clemson. But it's in Clemson, and it won't be as bad. If it was in Carolina with the noise and everything, it'd be a little more challenge for him. But from the standpoint of Carolina's approach, I don't know that they would come in with a singular approach. I don't think they're good enough in the secondary to play a lot of blitz man schemes. I cannot imagine, though, they'll go through the whole game without trying to bring some pressure at key times to hit the quarterback and affect him mentally and physically. So, it'll kind of be a little bit of a chess match, and there's no question Carolina's going to have to make the right moves at the right time to have a chance. Clemson's going to have plenty of chances to cover up their mistakes, but they'll have to really affect this young man tremendously to have a chance to make him make enough turnovers or bad throws in order to have a chance to win the game.
4th and goal with Ellis Johnson here with us on Sports Talk. And you look at Brent Venables, like, once again, nation's number 1, number 2 defense. It just seems like his guys are in position. I know talent has a lot to do with that, but the scheme he draws up and the coaching that he and the defensive staff do, it just seems to me that they're prepared for most anything thrown their way.
Yeah, I think he does a great job. But I feel they're very simple. And he's able to do that because the players up front on this particular squad are so good that they keep the ball. And you can't get a lot of time to throw the ball, and you get a lot of negative yardage plays and get people behind schedule. So what happens on that is it's a lot easier to come up with those things. But I think he does a tremendous job in preparation. I don't think he takes a lot into each ball game. And so therefore it's not a lot of complicated stuff, and therefore the players will execute it. Brett gets very aggressive sometimes in the way he supports the perimeter. But I think this year they're so good up front, they haven't had to do that quite as much. And then the past couple of 3 years, they put a lot of pressure in the secondary from having to play run support and more aggressively to stop people. And they don't have
All right, hang on, Ellis. Hang one second. We'll come back to you and continue here. Loving this stuff from Ellis Johnson talking about the big game tomorrow night here on Sports Talk.
Ask him if he wants me to bring it out. I'll update a couple of scores, and he can go back to Ellis. Yeah. That's okay. That's fine. You could have said yes. All right, no big deal. See ya. We're back on Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. The Blue Local Live Professor Tom Hayes as we come to you on Palmetto Bowl Eve. Yours truly already up in Clemson. By the way, Corn, in that topsy-turvy game in the state of Virginia, Virginia Tech has tied Virginia. It was a crazy play where Virginia looked like they were going in for an equalizing score, and the ball carrier fumbled it into the end zone. A UVA defender had an opportunity to pick the ball up, but ended up fumbling it himself, and then Virginia Tech covered it in the end zone to tie the score. Extra point is good. Virginia Tech had a chance also to possibly drive down for a game-winning score, but could not do so in the time allotted, and so those two will play overtime. UCF still leads USF 31-10, so the undefeated Knights getting themselves a chance to again, finish off the undefeated regular season. Still Oklahoma, West Virginia tonight. And also in the Apple Cup corner, I don't know if you saw this, the Washington University band will not attend the Apple Cup because their bus ended up rolling over an icy highway Thursday night in the state of Washington. So an unfortunate incident. Everybody is okay, but they're, of course, a little shaken by that. They had 56 on board. 46 were taken to local hospitals for evaluation. As of Friday morning, 2 remain under medical care for injuries that are not believed to be life-threatening. So, fortunately for everyone, everybody's okay there. But that rivalry obviously marred by that unfortunate incident there in the state of Washington.
Yeah, you hate to hear that, but you're glad everybody is okay. We go back to Ellis Johnson, 4th and goal here on Sports Talk for a couple of more minutes. What is it from your years and years and years of coaching experience? I'll throw an extra one in there for you. What is it about rivalry games of the magnitude of this one, the Palmetto Bowl, where they like to say in this game the favorite usually wins? People like to say that, but I mean, funny things like this Virginia Tech game. I mean, Virginia, even though they're playing on the road, has the better record. You think's the better team, yet Virginia Tech's hanging in there. When you're around the ball players in the hotel the night before the game, in the locker room, especially when you're the underdog, what is it that sometimes makes them rise up and do some incredible things and win a game they're not expected to?
I feel I haven't really ever experienced it to that degree. I've seen some weeks of bad preparation end up with good games, and weeks of good preparation end up people flubbing up. I think the thing what happens sometimes is kids lose their emotions. Football, it is a game of emotions, a game of momentum, a game of tempo, all that. But when kids get outside of the framework of what you're trying to do because they lose their head or they get over emotional and they think they're going to win the game in the first 30 seconds, that's when they start making mistakes. Or sometimes I think as a coach, you got to be careful about taking too much into a game. You got to make sure you've got something for every situation. So to me, it's all about preparation. It's not about all the pregame talks and all the stuff that goes on in the pregame warm-ups and that type of thing. Halftime rah-rah speeches, they can only go so far. I mean, they make you pick a kid up who's down a little bit or something like that. It goes back to recruiting, preparation, and being sound and healthy and having a good football team going on the field. And although sometimes emotion may, take over for the first 2 or 3 minutes, usually the team that's best prepared and got the best players and plays well is going to win the ballgame.
Ellis, as somebody who is a defensive-minded coach, I'm of the mind that South Carolina will need a non-offensive touchdown just to make this interesting and to shake the psyche of Clemson. I know that South Carolina's defense last year was more opportunistic than they were this year. How do you coach that to the level that you can be opportunistic, but so much so that you're not worried about missed assignments?
Yeah, they do work very hard on it. I'm not saying other schools don't too, but that was a big point of emphasis, and I think they coach it well. You do drills, strip drills, and punching the ball and those type things. There's technique to all that kind of stuff, just like there's technique to throwing the ball and catching it. And they put a lot of emphasis on it. And I think the emphasis on a day-to-day basis is what plants it in the back of a player's mind so that maybe the game's getting, the momentum's changing, some bad stuff's happened, there's things going on. The kid gets that opportunity to make that play on the ball, punch it out or strip it. He knows how to do it. He reacts, just the right time and gets it done. So that's the only thing you can do is coach it, emphasize it, give them little rewards. And I was talking on one of the shows the other day, and it said, what about all these belts are giving out, these chains are giving out? I said, hey, if you have to, get them a cheerleader. Anything will get them a turnover. Give them some rewards, okay?
Oh, my.
Make them a cake, whatever. Let's come kissing. If you can get a turnover, it's worth all that kind of stuff. The kids are having fun. They look forward to it. They're motivated. And it's not out on the field. It's not a part of the game. So that is one of the biggest things. You've already hit on it. And I think the only chance Carolina has to pull off any kind of upset tomorrow, they have got to get a bunch of takeaways, and they got to take care of the ball, because I don't know how they're going to shorten the series just by outplaying Clemson. They're outmatched in several positions with all these injuries they've had. They're not going to consistently stop them. And so they're going to have to get takeaways to cut the drives off and stop the 6-play drives and make it a 2-play drive or something.
Sure. Last thing with Ellis Johnson, how do you think the two quarterbacks are going to handle this? On the one hand, you've got the true freshman who is directing a team ranked number 2 in the country and really has no fallback. There's no Kelly Bryant there, even though Chase Bryce is a good quarterback. I don't think they want to insert him to change the tempo or anything like that, like they would have done if Kelly Bryant were still there. So it's all on his shoulders, and he's operating the number 2 team in the country, trying to win his first Palmetto Bowl game. And then on the other hand, you've got Jake Bentley, who had a horrible night at Clemson 2 years ago, but is a hot quarterback right now. You cannot take away from him the fact that he has been one of the better quarterbacks in the country over the last 4 or 5 games in terms of his numbers. So how do you think the two respective quarterbacks will handle it?
Well, I think Jake has, obviously, you've already kind of spelled it out there. He has the experience level and good and bad, tough games and good games. And he's played more college football than Trevor has. But it's the ability of the guys that are on their team to play around him that I think is going to be more important. Jake Bentley's not going to go out there and flake out, and Trevor Lawrence is not going to go out there and flake out. Will one of them make a bad throw here or there? Probably will. Maybe Jake over pressure. Maybe Trevor because he's younger and he's inaccurate or something. But the bottom line is the cast they have around them supporting them. How long are they going to protect each quarterback, and how many great plays catching the ball that the receiver's going to make? I think that's going to determine more how those two quarterbacks play than how the two of them actually do. I'd love to have either one of them in that game. I just think Clemson has a ton of players surrounding Trevor Lawrence that Carolina doesn't have right now.
So where does Ellis Johnson watch the Palmetto Bowl, since he's not going to be in a booth somewhere analyzing or calling out a defense?
Well, full disclosure, I might not watch it. I haven't watched a full college football game this year. I just can't do it. I can't get through one of them. But all joking aside, I'll either go watch it with my brother or maybe watch it right here at home. Hadn't really thought about that.
Is it harder to watch them?
It's just hard, Phil, when you coach and you watch film and you run it back when you want to, and then you have to sit here and look at all these commercials and listen to some of these people on the commentary that don't have a clue what they're talking about. It's hard to sit here and do that for 3 hours. I mean, it's drives me nuts as a coach.
Kind of like guys on the radio.
Easy.
That you have to talk to.
I'm watching Virginia Tech right now. I got the volume off. I just couldn't listen to them anymore.
Coach,
by the way,
we thank you as always. Yep.
Virginia Tech kicked the field goal, went up 34-31 in overtime, and about the second or third play of Virginia series, they fumbled and it's over. Tech beat them.
How about that?
Yeah.
See, that's what I'm talking about. That's rivalry week, baby. There's the underdog, the 4-6 team, and of course they're playing at home. That had to help Virginia Tech to some degree, and they got off to a good start, something South Carolina's not been able to do. I just want to see a competitive game. I'm tired of the blowouts. I want to see something that carries over into the second half. I know Clemson people don't want to hear that, and Gamecock fans do, because they want to have a chance. Hey, Ellis, we thank you so much. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you next week going into Championship Saturday.
Sounds good. Thanks, Phil.
I still think you're getting a kickback from ABC or ESPN, just because I think you're getting a kickback because you want that rating to be high. That's what you want.
Well, that's fine with me. I mean, an exciting ball game will attract the nice ratings. If that's what it is, that's what it is. I just want to see some competition for a change. Be right back with Monty Dutton.
Tigers got a birdie putt to try and win it. Oh no, he missed it. Oh no.
The latest on this weekend's race is around the corner. The full Monty on NASCAR is next. This is Sports Talk.
It is time to wrap up. I can't believe it. The 2018 NASCAR season here on Sports Talk. We visit one final time with Monty Dutton of MontyDutton.com. And Joey Logano, that's a good popular champion. I think he's marketable. He looks good. Had a great year this year. And, you know, when it came time to win the final race and his team came together nicely for him, got him back out in good shape, and he just powered away to that victory.
I think that I wrote a column this week at the Competition Plus website. I write a weekly column, and the subject of it was when I first when Logano just came along, he was sort of like poster boy for the clueless rich kid. And not only that, but I had difficulty covering him because he spoke so indistinctly that I couldn't hardly make out what he said on tape. I couldn't understand him unless I could see his lips move. And I also remember another young clueless driver whose rookie year was the first year I covered racing full time. His name was Jeff Gordon. And as much as people say now, Gordon was maddening. I used to say that if Gordon won a race, I could hold the press conference because I knew every word he was going to say. And Gordon came so far, and so has Logano. I don't think that when you have a guy who's 18, who's 20 years old and he's making $1 million, you can't say he went through the school of hard knocks. But it is amazing how much they learn from the experience of being a top athlete and being in demand and having to deal with so many duties.
What'd you like about the way his team handled that race, the kind of race that was called?
Well, I think that
how they got him back out there.
Well, I mean, invariably, because of the twists and turns of a race these days and because of the stages, there are going to be some educated guesses that crew chiefs make where they either say this is going to make it where if the race goes green we're going to win, or we need a cautions get it back, and those things are sort of fate. There's times where there's right and wrong. You make your choice, but it just depends on how it plays out. But you know, the whole deal is getting the driver in position to win when the race is on the line. And I mean, as a general rule, I would say the Penske organization is fairly faultless at that. I mean, you know, it doesn't always go their way, but they're very solid in judgment.
So wider angle lens here, Monty, as NASCAR went through again, to put this fairly, I would call it a tumultuous season. TV ratings were down, attendance was down, and the general tenor of the sport took a lot of hits. How does the governing body respond? How would you like them to respond? And I guess, where do we go from here in terms of this sport?
I have always been an advocate. I think they've got themselves in the mess they're in because they overreact to everything. I think they need to have a system in place. It always bothers me that you can't compare one champion to another because they change things and there's so many different standards. The last few years, they've had 4 finalists for one race at the end, and then they had it where they had a situation before that where the only 10 getting to the final 10 races, and from there it was almost like a separate season for the 10 and then 12 and now 16. I think they do the same thing with the cars. They bounce back and forth. Last year, the big idea was to put more driving into them, and holy cow, what a surprise! The best drivers won all the races. And next year, they're going to try to make it where the cars stick together more, and there's going to be more passing throughout the day. The only concern with that is sometimes if you make, I'm not that, there has to be a balance, because I really don't want the top racing series in America to have cars that are too easy to drive. So I would just like to see, it seems like to me that the more NASCAR scrambles, the more they lose the attention of the public. And the more people just get sort of disgruntled because it's hard for them to keep up with what's going on. You know, not everybody out there, as much as I hate it, not everybody reads me, and not everybody voluminously studies. A lot of people, all they get is what they turn on TV. And I think the sport's become too complicated and confusing, and people can't keep up with changes.
Well, Monty, when you look at what has happened the last couple of years with the Truex Jr. winning and then Joey Logano, it seemed that we went through a period where Jimmy Johnson, you just gave him the trophy before the playoff. So these different winners the last couple of years, will that help the interest of the NASCAR fan to follow the sport more closely, in that you don't know who may win it each year?
Well, I think that once again there has to be sort of a balance. I think when they started the chase, I mean, I think the original chase, Johnson greatly benefited from it. If they had a full season point standings like they had beforehand, if you added up the way the season went, he wouldn't have won very many titles. On the other hand, you don't go by the old system. You go by the new system. And Johnson and Chad Knaus deserve a lot of credit for it, while everybody else was saying, we're just going to go out there like we do every week. There was a method to their madness. And then I think that the next phase became, well, let's figure, Jimmy Johnson winning this thing every year is killing us. Let's figure out a way to beat him. And now there's a certain random nature to it, in that in this past year, 3 drivers had a championship already and were going for second. And the one who hadn't had a championship won it. So I think that you need to have sports needs superstars as well as stars. And so, I mean, I think that you have to have a certain amount of success to capture people's imaginations. And so, having like now you go back, dating back to, if you count Johnson having won 1 during this period, you've had separate champions every year. And so I don't think having one guy win it every year is great, and I don't think having a different person win it every year is great. I think that in between is what it is. I do think this season went pretty well, in that at the end of it, the log jam by 3 drivers winning all the races had been broken up. And I think down the stretch there were a lot of encouraging signs that maybe next year will be better.
All right, so we'll give you a chance for a burnout here on Sports Talk as we say goodbye to you until February. Give us the Monty Dutton one big prediction for 2019.
I believe that 2019, I believe that at the end of the season, Jimmy Johnson will retire.
No, really?
I don't have any inside information. I just don't think that he will be content, working his way into seventh place at the end. And with the breakup of Canals, I just don't see that magic combination again. I could be completely wrong, and I sort of hope I am.
Yeah. Hey, Monty, we can't thank you enough for being with us all NASCAR season long. We only have about 80 days or 85 days until Daytona. It'll be here before you know it. The shortest off season in sports, I guess, except for maybe golf and tennis that don't have an off season. In terms of your major team sports, this is the shortest. So to be right back at us in February, and we'll be back with you then. And we thank you so much. Have a great off season.
Thanks for having me, Phil.
As always, Monty Dutton, and you can catch Monty on his website or his blog, MontyDutton.com. Besides his opinions on NASCAR and his insight on NASCAR, he writes books. He's a novelist and has written a lot of stuff. He's written stuff about Clinton, his hometown, and Clinton High School football, his high school, and Coach Richardson, his coach. So look it up and buy his stuff and enjoy reading his stuff.
Corn, they've gone to a extra 20th hole in this Tiger Phil thing. It's like 93 yards long, basically making them chip for the win. They're playing this like 20th hole over and over again because they continue to be all square. It's turned into a farce. It's turned into a farce.
What's the gallery like?
It's basically a bunch of Bleacher Report employees. It's like maybe like 100 people there, maybe.
Okay, we got more to come here on Sports Talk. We'll hear from Muschamp and Sweeney one more time.
Oh. This is so stupid. This is so stupid. Yes, sir.
Horn said you're bringing it back.
All right. We are back on Sports Talk. It is time to close the book on the preview portion for Palmetto Bowl 2018. And I think, Corn, as we were talking about before the show, I find no better way to close the book than to once again focus on the vocabulary of the coach for that school in the upstate. Are you there? Hello.
I think Phil has got interrupted by his granddaughter.
I guess. Well, what I was going to say, I didn't know if that was my connection that was lost or Corn's, but it looks like I'm still okay. But as you may or may not remember from last week, I used a particular word to address a question to Dabo Swinney, a word that is lament or lamenting. And some reporter from the Clemson beat also brought that forward and used it in a question this week about how Dabo was basically dealing with the 5 consecutive losses to South Carolina a couple of years back. And here's a portion of that from earlier this week during Dabo's Talking Tuesday session.
They're all unique in their own ways. You know, we don't really, I guess, other than the Panthers have
That's Will Muschamp instead.
Very similar to the Iron Bowl. As far as that
is,
is, I would you know, just
that's Will Muschamp.
There's not a lot of, you know, fans from other universities in our state other than South Carolina and Clemson, and that's, to me, is probably what's unique. I would probably say the same thing in the state of Alabama. You know, you're Auburn or you're Alabama, and that's but that's what would make this unique to me.
Will, what have you said to the team about the emotion of this game and not getting too wrapped up in the
just got to keep your composure. It's going to be an emotional game. I think anytime that you have a familiarity with your opponent, which we do obviously, and there's a lot of carryover and crossover within the state and that's and such. So you got to keep your composure. You know, we had a couple situations last year. Last year we lost our composure in a couple critical situations to keep a drive alive, and then a offsetting penalty we retaliated to a situation we shouldn't have. So at the end of the day, you got to keep your composure and don't hurt your football team.
How do you resist the temptation to use Clemson as a comparative situation as far as, you know, you want to be where they are? How do you resist temptation? Because I know a lot of people in the fan base try to compare the two of you guys. How do you resist that in your program with your players?
Well, I can't control anything outside of our program and what they do. And at the end of the day, I'm focused on versus South Carolina and what we need to do to continue to take steps forward in our program and to compete for championships. And that's what we're about. And that's the commitment level we've shown with our operations facility and the new things that we're doing moving forward. And I'll worry about the things I can control, and that's South Carolina.
Do you bring up the history at all these last couple of years? Because I know last season you did, talking about trying to end the streak.
Well, I mean, I think it's more than anything. We went up there our first year and had some guys that flat out didn't compete, and that wasn't going to happen again. And that was our message for our football team. It's about competing, and that's the situation we were in that first year. Unfortunately, that's why we're here. And you got to continue to coach through that and continue to build the culture that you want within your organization. And we're much better now than we were then.
Well, you've coached at so many different stadiums. How does the intensity of the crowd noise and just kind of the scene there compare with some of the other, you know, great places that you've been at?
When you put 80,000 people in a spot, it's going to be loud. So it's a good environment.
You wouldn't. What's the most intense one you've ever been to?
Waynesboro Stadium. That's a dumb question, James.
After the,
come on, man. I mean,
how about on the road?
Huh?
On the road.
On the road, yeah. Waynesboro Stadium. I was an opposing coach. That phys ed major's doing me wonders.
All right. Will Muschamp from earlier today. Earlier this week, Will was at the press conference in Columbia, and I was up at Clemson to listen to Dabo Swinney earlier this week. And so, of course, one of the things he talked about was dealing with the 5-game losing streak, something South Carolina will have to deal with. Now, Muschamp will only be responsible for 3 if he loses on Saturday. Dabo was responsible for all 5 because it started in 2009. He was the head coach, so he had to deal with it, all 5 of those defeats. And earlier this week, he talked about what life was like for him going through that tough stretch.
I'm still lugubrious. Thanks for asking. I'm still lamenting that. Where is that guy? Is he in here? Is he here? Anyway, yeah, I got some good laughs out of that. Yeah, no, I'm still very lugubrious. It's not happy. That was a tough stretch for sure, and hopefully, listen, at some point they're going to beat us again. This is life. This is football. Hopefully not in my lifetime. That'd be great. Hopefully not this year, and hopefully not, the next many years. But chances are, eventually they're going to win a game. And I think for me, I just want to make sure that we can, keep our program consistent and continue to have a good program and year in and year out, have a chance to compete consistently in this championship, but also our league and beyond.
You mentioned you would go out and get judged by the logo you wore. You saw the back and forth of the fans in the Auburn-Alabama series. You've seen it in this. Have you kind of now take it in stride? Brent mentioned yesterday that, he was surprised, like in Little League games, you'd be taking flack.
Oh, yeah.
You just kind of, have you kind of embedded in the whole thing?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I've grown up with that. So, yeah, I get it. It is surprising sometimes that, parents, allow their kids to speak to adults sometimes, but, I just keep on moving. That's just kind of, everybody's got a parent the way I guess they, what's acceptable to some parents is not acceptable to other parents. And, I used to always take pictures. I take pictures of anybody. I don't have any ill will toward anybody. At the end of the day, we're all on the same team, or we should be, in a bigger picture. But sometimes, people coming up and I think taking pictures and trying to firebomb you and parents having fun with that. And I would never allow my kids to do that. And I think that's probably what he's talking about. But hey, that's me. Everybody's got to parent the way they want to parent. But as far as the normal, you stink and, go Gamecocks and roll Tide and all that. I mean, that's good fun.
All right, Dabo Swinney from earlier this week, his final thoughts on the rivalry and trying to avoid losing a game to South Carolina. Like he said, he knows they're going to win a game sometime. He just doesn't want it to happen tomorrow night. He doesn't want it to happen next year or any time in the foreseeable future. But eventually the tide will turn and South Carolina will do its damage once again in the rivalry. A couple of quick recruiting notes before we leave you. One thing in basketball. This came down, I think, after we went off the air on Wednesday night, but USC women signed another big-timer, 6'4" Aaliyah Boston, a native of the U.S. Virgin Islands who now lives in Massachusetts, and she is ranked the number 3 player nationally by ESPN. So Dawn Staley has the number 3, the number 7, the number 10, the number 13 players in the country in her class. So she is having a heck of a recruiting season.
Number 1 announces on the 28th, and South Carolina's on the other list.
Exactly. Well, they'd love to get her as the icing on the cake. Will, final thoughts?
I still don't think it'll be close. Sorry, guys.
I don't consider 21
why
points
they play
close.
the game. We shall see. That's why they play the game. Everybody enjoy, and we'll see you Monday night here on Sports Talk.